Yeah, hello all. Like in this particular video, I am actually going to talk about what are the roles and responsibilities of a release train engineer. Okay, so before I get into this particular video, let me tell this particular role RTE, which we call as a release train engineer, is been specifically coming from the SAFE framework. Okay, now like as part of my experience, I have actually played the role of this particular RTE few years ago. Okay, so just to give a quick introduction about like myself, I am actually currently playing the role of a executive agile coach, and I am also heading the agile transformation office. Okay, so in this particular video, let me tell what are all the roles and responsibilities of a RTE, what are all the possible areas like a person who is aspiring to actually become a successful RTE need to actually focus. Okay, so let us go one by one. Okay, so coming back to this particular SAFE framework, right, which we call as a scaled agile framework, this particular framework has a role called RTE, typically positioned at a program layer construct. Okay, but now in the recent versions of SAFE, what had actually happened was that the team level and the program layer or the construct had been combined into something called a essential SAFE. So like you people know, RTE is actually playing the role of a scrum master at a program layer. So generally people tend to call him or her as a lead scrum master or a chief scrum master. Okay, so if you want to just give a correlation or a corroboration, your scrum master is actually going to play the role of a team level coach by and large. Depending upon the context and the dynamics, so some of the things will actually vary, but generally speaking, your actually scrum master is a team level agile coach, a kind of a process facilitator, a kind of an basically a kind of an improvement enabler, and also facilitating to remove the impediments of the team. Now, having been said that you have understood the role of a scrum master, now you are trying to go to you are actually trying to magnify that role to a program level construct. Okay, so some of the responsibilities of this particular role is RTE as a person is, first of all, the person should be good in terms of the communications and actually build a solid rapport or like actually a relationship with the diversified groups, right? Because when I was working as an RTE, I was indeed coaching the product owner, head of the product management group, also coaching the scrum masters, right? So I actually used to work with a diversified target groups, right? So one need to have a fundamentally the ability to build connects, the ability to build rapport, the ability to build relationships with diversified groups, and then probably a typical RTE should have the capability to develop and nurture team of teams. Okay, now why am I using the word team of teams? Because when I talk about at an agile release train level, it is not a single team, right? As the concept says, a single train can contain 50 to 125 people. So it is the ability to develop and nurture relationships across a team of teams. Now, some of the people, right, my own mentees, as part of my agile mentorship program which I do, ask me how you can build rapport and connect with 50 people, how you can build rapport and connect with 125 people. Yes, basically the question is a valid one, but my say is sometimes you will not be coaching each and individual team members of the train. You will be coaching the product owner, the product management group, you will be coaching the scrum masters, and sometimes you will also be coaching the team level agile coaches. See, what we do exactly, it's been driven by the context. You need to have a generic view, but still you need to customize it as per the dynamics of the context. Okay, so just to paraphrase our understanding till now, a typical RTE should focus on building relationships, develop and nurture team of teams, develop and nurture the relationships with the diversified groups. It could be from the product management team, it could be from the release management team, it could be from the PMO teams, or it could be from the Lean Agile Center of Excellence. So building relationships through effective and efficient communication is of a paramount importance for this particular role. Okay, the second thing which actually comes to my mind is, if you want to be a successful RTE, then you need to be very good in terms of facilitation capabilities. Why? Because a typical RTE is actually going to facilitate a program increment planning, is going to facilitate a scrum of scrum meetings, which we call as actually call as a SOS, and an RTE is going to facilitate the system demo, ART sync up meetings, and also facilitate the inspect and adapt workshops. Just to name a few, okay. We have a lot of program level cadences and portfolio level cadences, but just to name some of the things is, one actually could be the program increment planning, which we also call as a big room planning, which is the heartbeat of the train, right? ART. So what am I trying to say is, one actually could be the program increment planning, second thing could be the like actually the scrum of scrum, then actually it actually could be the ART level sync up meetings, followed by the system demo, and also you may need to think about ART level assessment, right? Like your scrum master or your team level agile coach is actually going to facilitate a team level maturity assessment. Typically an RTE should have the capability, the competency and the mindset to do an ART level assessment. Okay, so these are all some of the points. Now one more important point is, don't confine the ceremonies or the cadences only to the framework, because sometimes you may need to facilitate some meetings or some kind of a touch points which is slightly outside the framework also, right? Say for example your agile release planning, because if you take a framework called SAFe and if you look for agile release planning, you will not get that meeting. But because that meeting is not there in the framework does not mean you should not do it. Say for example, my own teams does feature backlog refinement. Okay, I am not actually talking about product backlog refinement. I am talking about feature backlog refinement, wherein we try to refine features at a program backlog continuously on a every fortnightly basis. So what am I trying to say is, just to cut a long story short, if an RTE should have that capability to work with large audience and then take the thought process of the audience from a divergent zone or a space and slowly move it to a converging point, so as to create consensus in a timely fashion. So this facilitation, see, actually speaking, your communication skill, your facilitation skill, everything goes hand in hand. But still, I want to create a separate block, a block for communication skill versus a facilitation skill, because communication skills could be one-on-one coaching, one-on-one sessions, or a kind of an email communication also. Whereas facilitation is, how do you be a process anchor and drive things by working with a larger group. Okay, so these are all some of the points which you need to keep in the mind. Okay, then the third point which actually comes to my mind is planning and organizational capabilities. Like for example, right, you may need to think about, if I want to nurture this particular train, okay, why am I using the word train? I am referring to the agile release train, ART, right? So what kind of program level cadences, what kind of portfolio level cadences which I need to have so that I can actually have a sustained collaboration, coordination, for example, collaboration, coordination, communication, not only at a team level but also at a program layer and at a portfolio layer, and in some cases you also have something called a large solution layer. So generally we used to go for a large solution layer if you have something like a vendor or a supplier, and if you want to bundle your features to give a capability. Generally general rule of the rule of the thumb. Okay, now let us get into the fourth skill. The fourth capability is leadership skills. Means what? People should derive inspiration from you when you work as an RTE. Means what? See, leadership is all about solution oriented thinking process, right? Because okay, understood that we have a problem, agreed upon that we have a problem or a situation to deal with, which is quite challenging in the nature. Leadership is all about, do I have the capability to take people from the problem zone to the solution zone? Okay, so when you talk about leadership, no, it is not that only CFO, CIO, CTO people should have the leadership. In fact speaking, the reverse is the true. Means what? If you start exhibiting that particular leadership capabilities, you will automatically be elevated to the level of a leader in an organization. So, see, for example, one of the simple example which comes to my mind is, let's say you are actually traveling in some place, right? And then I actually halted for a tea shop just for take some relaxation in the long distance driving. Now, closer to that particular tea shop, we had a drainage hole which has been kept partially open, and there is a possibility that if people can actually slip into it and then fall down. So what happened is that so I was just observing it while actually drinking my tea, and I thought that okay, let me finish off my tea and then I will like go there and then put a barricade or some kind of a brick mortar just to tell people that the hole is been like that particular drainage. Okay, because what had actually happened was that the lid of the particular lid or the cover of the drainage hole was already been broken. Now one of the guy who is working in that particular tea shop, he actually went there and then he has put some bricks over it as a barricade, and then he has also put some kind of a metal rod. So okay, a kind of a barricade, and then he called someone that maybe the local panchayat office or whosoever, saying that there is a problem, can someone come and look into it. From my opinion, that person is exhibiting a leadership trait, because leadership is all about how am I able to take my people, instead of brooding on the problem space, can I start thinking from a solution phase, focus, right? Instead of wasting your energy, effort and time in terms of keep on cribbing on the problem, how I can channelize that particular energy, instead of focusing on the problem, can we work together to focus on the solution? Some problems can be solved, some problems may not be solved immediately, some problems are actually going to take more time, some problems can be partially solved. All those things are understood, but what is your direction of thinking? So I generally used to tell my own mentees, the point is the ability to think is actually a vector quantity. It has a size to it and it has a direction to it, right? So what is more important is the direction of your intelligence rather than the size of the intelligence. Okay, so why am I saying about this particular leadership capabilities are needed for an RTE? The reason being, there will be a lot of dependency management, there will be a lot of risk management, there will be a lot of communication management related activities, there will be a lot of stakeholder engagement related activities when you are typically working as an RTE for a large scale agile transformation. So unless and until you possess these particular capabilities, it is very difficult to keep the ball rolling in a real-time engagement. Okay, so these are all some of the thoughts. Now, apart from your the capability to build the relationship, your planning, the ability to plan, and your organizational skills capability, your leadership, your facilitation skills, you also need a solid understanding of the subject, right? Because only soft skills are not going to help you. So you need to be very strong in the fundamentals of Agile, the fundamentals of the framework, the Agile manifesto, Agile principles, the principles of SAFe. Start looking into the principles behind the practices. Don't just confine yourself to the ceremonies or the practices. Why am I doing? What am I doing? That is of paramount importance. Then comes the how part, right? So your general Agile knowledge, your Agile experience, and having the right mindset or the growth oriented mindset in terms of continuously learning habit, all these things are of a paramount importance when you really wanted to play the role of a successful RTE. Now, Before I end this video, let me tell one more very important point, which I don't see people covering in much of the YouTube videos or any of the RTE related articles. Okay, so that particular thing is how soon you can take a grip on the particular project ecosystem. See, let's say you are now working for a BFSA domain client, and let's say they are implementing SAFe as the framework. Okay, let's say for a example, now you have been positioned as an RTE for that particular migration engagement, wherein across 15 business units or across 10 business units, you are trying to do a large scale agile transformation so as to take the team of teams from the current technology, which is a legacy kind of a system on premise, to cloud. I'm just giving an example, okay, because on a YouTube video which is on a social media platform, I cannot really tell the details of the client and the exact tech stack and the landscape. So to maintain the confidentiality of that particular data, I'm just giving a general view. Let us take an example that you are working in a data migration kind of a project, wherein you need to move the 15 business units of a, let's say, a banking client, for example, from the state X of all your technology on premise to the future state into the cloud, onto the cloud. Now, if you don't have the project knowledge, okay, I'm not actually talking about the domain knowledge, okay, I am talking about what is the project all about, what is the tech stack all about, how many applications that we need to migrate, and across how many business units we need to migrate, and how am I going to define my MVP model. Because it is a data migration kind of an engagement, you are going to have requirements, your design, your data lake setup activity, your sandbox setup activity, followed by validation and a sign off. Now, the point what I am trying to say is, if you don't understand the project quickly, if you don't take a grip on the ecosystem, believe me, you will be talking only about generic SAFe or generic agile. Any generic SAFe or any kind of a generic agile framework, it's not going to solve the problem. Your agile knowledge, your scaled agile framework knowledge should resonate in a very nice synergy or in a harmonious manner with the ecosystem of the client or the product or the project. That is the reason many people who completed scaled program consultant certification still feel difficulty to handle a SAFe project. If you take my own case, I completed my SPC somewhere in 2018. But then after that, I worked for the past 4.5 years or 5 years. I was extensively working hands-on on SAFe, okay, on this framework called SAFe. So I learned a lot based on my experience. So what am I trying to say is, if it is let's say for example, if it is a migration, like if it is a migration project, then one need to have clarity on, okay, what is my data platform objective? How does the data acquisition is currently going to happen? What is the core data platform? How does my analytics or the data science components are going to relate to it? How does my ETL and the connectors are going to get framed? How is the data governance? How is my MDM, the metadata management? What are all the data operations? How is the data assurance? And how is the data extraction? So if I want to cut a long story short, your RTE capabilities, your agile capabilities, and then your like whatever I have told you, it's going to help you only 40 to 50%. If you can't take grip of your project, if you can't take grip of the ecosystem, believe me, people are not going to respect you, right? Much of the time, Scrum Masters and RTEs will be perceived as only people who are opening up the bridge for the meeting and closing the bridge, because you have process knowledge. But for you to make a communication, you need to understand really what's happening on the play field, right? Okay, for example, if they are actually talking about a DevOps model, or if they are actually talking about a DevSecOps model, you need to understand what are the current state characteristics and what are the future state characteristics. Just talking only on a high level, whatever you learned in the certification is not going to help you. And no, let me tell one more point. Expecting that you will get a real-time experience from a certification itself is a wrong expectation, because How come one person will get a real-time experience just by spending a weekend for a certification? Or rather, even if you do a scaled program consultant, you are going to spend 4 days. Do you think 4 days are good enough for you to get real-time experience, which we people in the industry are getting it from 20 years, right? So it's going to take, see, the point what I'm trying to say is, I'm not trying to look down upon the agile certifications. If you take me, I myself have 13 agile certifications, but believe me, certifications will give you the knowledge of looking the dots, but experience is something where you connect the dots based on the context, right? So what am I trying to say is, as soon as you join as a Scrum Master or as an Agile coach or as an RTE or any role for that matter, don't start thinking about generic implementation of the framework. Start taking grip of the landscape. So how do you do it? Try to go and have some conversation with the functional SMEs. If you have a SharePoint drive or a shared drive wherein the project artifacts repository has been maintained, spend some time to read those artifacts and really understand what's happening on the ground. And for example, when I worked as an RTE long back, I was being even expected to define the MVP model at an engagement level. So I went ahead, I took the extra mile of connecting with my product owner, product manager, release management group, system architect, then I spoke to DevOps consultant, functional SMEs, I even spoke to the team members, and then we formulated an MVP model, which in itself is going to take care of requirements, design, data lake setup activity, sandbox setup activity, followed by validation and the sign off. So what am I trying to say is, in terms of your data governance, together with your data breakthrough, the data foundation and analytics, and how are you going to do your insight delivery at a scale, right? Like at a platform level across the business units. I took a grip of all those things, and then I activated and then I found out the in-scope activities, what are the key activities at an engagement level, assumptions, dependencies, limitations, constraints, technology, tech stack, and then I talked about the program predictability measure report, which is given in the SAFE. So what am I trying to say is, unless and until you take a quick grip on the project ecosystem, it will be very difficult to gain respect from your own team members. Okay, forget about the client. Okay. Then one more responsibility wherein I actually wanted to tell for RTEs is, how will you do an art level assessment, right? Because the Scrum Masters will be, or the team level Agile coaches will be doing a team level Agile maturity assessment. Here now I am going to talk about an art level assessment or some kind of a business agility assessment. Those things also you may need to keep in mind. And one more area, one second please. Okay, and one more area wherein I have contributed as when I was working as an RTE was that sometimes I will be having a communication with my program managers, delivery managers in terms of what are all the amendments, what are all the changes which we need to make dynamically in terms of our SOW or the master service agreement, which is going to resonate with the dynamics of the project, right? Because your project may have some kind of a variations, right, up and down. So how does my agile contracting model is actually going to resonate in terms of the dynamics of the program at an engagement level, and what are the key considerations, like what are all the key considerations which we need to keep in mind. Okay, what did I mean by the consideration? It could be the speed of the execution, it could be the early feedback, it could be the it actually could be a de-risked execution model, like wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, how to have a zero disruption, how to have a seamless integration, what are all the strategy which I need to keep in mind to create a parallel run versus a hypercare. All those things also I used to contribute when I was working as an RTE. So I was just giving that example just to tell if it is a migration project. Now it is a SAP based implementation or a Siebel based implementation, the landscape changes, the context also changes. So for a migration project, in terms of the data breakthrough, in terms of the data foundation, in terms of the analytics and the insight delivery, insight factory, the data governance, these are all the areas which I was trying to do to take better grip of the project or the or the ecosystem. If you only talk about your safe implementation, believe me, people are not going to respect you in the long run, and you cannot contribute in the calls. You need to know the project, right? Because in many places they will not talk about this point. They will only talk about leadership, facilitation, your planning skill, growth mindset. All these things are fine. But unless and until you are a fast learner to take grip of the ecosystem, then how you can contribute value in that particular context, right? So my say is, instead of improving Scrum, instead of improving Kanban capabilities, DevOps capabilities, safe capabilities, it will be more wise if you think, what am I supposed to do to improve my capability to learn things fast? Okay, how you do that is up to you. But all that I was trying to say is, if you have that ability to learn things fast, then anything given you can learn it fast, right? Safe is just a framework, okay, and Agile is more of a philosophy and a mindset. But if you have the capability to learn things fast, then probably any subject given, any situation given, you can learn it fast. Okay, so before I end this particular video, I also wanted to tell, if you in case you needed any kind of a real-time assistance on Agile transformation, your RTE role or your safe transformation, you can actually connect with me on the WhatsApp number, which I am going to share in the description of this particular video. And one more thing is that I also do some safe certifications. So if in case someone wanted to connect with me, you can ping me on my WhatsApp number. Either me or my team will actually respond to you. Hope this video was helpful for you to give some insights into what are all the different colors of rainbow that you need to keep in mind in terms of improving your capabilities, in terms of a real-time execution competency for a RTE role. I think in this particular 26 minutes approximately this video, I try to make as much justice as possible to render value to you in terms of the multiple aspects or dimensions that you wanted to learn for this particular role called Release Train Engineer. Okay, and I also have my own website, www.balaji, B-A-L-A-J-I, Agile, A-G-I-L-E, balajiagile.com. You can just go through my website and then try to derive more value from it. And if you are seeing this video, you can even subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I also have a private Facebook group. I will be sharing the link of the private Facebook group in this video. Feel free to send me a connect request. Once I approve, you can actually join over there. Okay, all the best to you, and hope our paths will cross again. Okay, cheers, bye.